Get started with the exclusive Equilife Health Assessment and receive personalized recommendations tailored to your unique health needs. Whether you're struggling with digestion, weight loss, hormone imbalances, or reversing the aging process, we're here to help you discover the real reason why you haven't been able to get well. After completing the assessment or vitamin tox lab test, uncover the root cause of your health issues. With ongoing support from elite health coaches and our online community, you'll stay on track. Start your journey to better health today at equi.life. Equilife. Are you ready to take control of your health? At 4U Health, we believe wellness and lab testing should be accessible, inclusive, and yes, fun. With our tech-powered at-home lab test, you save time and money while feeling your best. Say goodbye to long waits and office visits. Check your health on your own terms with 4U Health. Visit 4uhealth.com today and free yourself from traditional medicine. That's the number 4uhealth.com.
Do you ever have a story that you just can't get out of your head?
One that you play the details of over and over with your friends?
Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Claire.
And I'm Susan.
And this is Justice Pending,
a weekly true crime podcast where we discuss tantalizing crimes with more questions than answers.
Thanks for joining us. So one of these days, we're going to stop talking about the United Healthcare assassination. But today is not that day, is it, Susan?
It's not, because we keep learning more and more, and the case keeps getting more and more interesting.
Yes. So welcome to episode 4, The Manifesto.
And what a manifesto it is.
So they've actually released some excerpts. Newsweek says it's the 3-page document released in full. It doesn't really read like 3 pages to me, so I kind of question that. But I think
it was probably handwritten,
Yeah.
like maybe it was handwritten. No, who knows how big the notebook was, if he's traveling light.
True.
But yeah, I know it's, you want to read some of the excerpts?
Let's do it. So I believe this is the opening line. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. I believe CAD stands for computer-aided design. I don't know if people in the engineering world call it CAD or what.
Right.
But that's how it opens. Then it says, the spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42 in life expectancy. United is the indecipherable largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No, the reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed decades ago, and the problems simply remain. Then he cited Rosenthal and Moore, like it was a college research paper. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm very curious what Rosenthal or who Rosenthal Moore or Ann Moore is, and I actually am having a hard time. Oh, I see. It's Elizabeth Rosenthal, who wrote An American Sickness, and Michael Moore, who directed Sicko.
Okay.
That's for people on That's what people online are saying it is. My first thought is that's quite the weight of the world he took on his shoulders. So I
Yeah, no
think,
kidding. Very grandiose, very, I'm going to literally save the world. I'm going to save America from the failing healthcare system by killing the CEO. Like, this is
yeah,
gonna
it's
fix it all.
right. And I can't understand how he can't see beyond it. Now, I will say it certainly sparked a national conversation about it. I think, in previous episodes, we've noted how other health insurance companies proactively announce changes to their policies and coverage and, you know, things, administrative things to do with claims. So that's interesting. And I think he did move the needle, or at least upset the needle in a way that he wanted to. We can see how, I mean, just how crazy the fans are going over him, which is something we should absolutely cover because it's beyond anything I've ever seen before.
Yes, like the fact that Luigi hats are selling out online, that people are going around, saying free Luigi. There are wanted CEO signs popping up in New York City. There's been a crowdsource effort for his legal defense fund.
Oh, I think I heard last night it's up to over
Oh
150,000.
my goodness.
But as far as his manifesto goes, these parasites had it coming. It's like, I think he thought with one event it would change everything. And I don't know how he thought that was possible. Like, I don't know. It seems like he didn't think three steps beyond
Right.
for such a smart guy who had really spent clearly a lot of time thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, just the idea that we would let the Luigi Mangiones of the world decide who lives and dies, I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with that. I'm
No.
not okay with deciding that you have a solution to a problem and it involves murder and enacting that out on your own in the streets and then becoming a folk hero.
Yeah,
That
it's
doesn't sound like
disturbing.
America to me.
No, it's actually quite disturbing. Ugh, like the whole thing just doesn't sit well with me. I mean, with most, I shouldn't say most. I don't know if I'm in the minority I don't know if we're in the minority or the majority. I would hope we're in the majority who it doesn't sit well with. I think there's some deeply unsettled or unresolved trauma going on. I don't know if it's related to the pain from the back surgery, and the chronic back issues. I actually have been unable to find anywhere that has shown that he was insured by United Healthcare at any point.
So I saw that he was actually insured by Blue Cross Blue Shield. So even wilder that he would pick off the United Healthcare CEO, I believe they've come out and said they never insured him. He's never been on their plan. I honestly think it was like logistics for him. Like he found out where their conference was, he could get to it easily. It was sort of a murder of, somewhat convenience, which is pretty crazy to think about. But I don't think he had, as far as anyone can tell, any personal connection to United Healthcare. It was just a big target. It was one of the largest healthcare providers in the country. And he decided that that was who, was going to quote unquote pay.
Maybe it says in his manifesto that they are the largest,
Yes.
by market cap. So maybe that was the criteria. It is pretty crazy. I mean, this is not to be joking about it, but Saturday Night Live just last Saturday did I'll call it a spoof on him. And he, was saying how, or whoever I forget who the comedian was, but was saying how he's so anti-corporate America, yet just prior to the crime, he got himself a Starbucks. And then right after he was caught in McDonald's. And it's sort of like,
Yeah, I think
so
it was
you're,
Colin Jost on Weekend Update who pointed out that irony. I mean, it definitely seems like there's some hypocrisy in this killing, but it's not like it was logical anyway. So,
correct,
are
correct.
we really
Yeah.
surprised? I was surprised that the New Yorker put out an article saying Luigi Mangione and the making of a modern anti-hero. And they took his mugshot and they really romanticized it. I mean, it's a
That's
mugshot, but they put like all this lighting on it and they made him almost, it was kind of reminiscent of like the Barack Obama posters, which to me, I
awesome.
was like, wow, that's a mood right there. I do not think there's any world in which this man's mugshot should be romanticized, but it clearly is in a lot of different places.
Well, I think the media is taking the opportunity to jump on the story and attacking it from multiple ways. And they see this uprising of the people who are in favor of him and want to free him and thinks that he did a heroic, brave, wonderful thing. And it's sort of like that's the media's job, right? To stir the pot,
Right.
some media, some outlets. Now, I mean, for a New York publication to do that when the crime happened on their soil, I think is a little tacky.
At Mitzi, we believe the right light can transform any space. Born from a third-generation lighting family, we craft beautifully designed, premium lighting that's made to be affordable. Inspired by Grandma Mitzi's eclectic style, we're on a mission to make high-quality lighting accessible to all. Whether you're updating your space or adding a unique fixture, Mitzi has the perfect design for you. Beautiful, well-made lighting without the high price tag. Discover your perfect light at Mitzi.com. That's MITZI.com. Mitzi. Experience the perfect blend of exquisite craftsmanship and life-changing technology with Gevi. Every product is built with precision, featuring specialized parts that ensure durability, efficiency, and safety. We put every machine through 6,000 rigorous tests to guarantee long-lasting performance. With cutting-edge technology and a commitment to energy efficiency, Gevi makes your life easier, greener, and more convenient. Upgrade your everyday with Gevi. Visit us at gevi.com to discover more. That's gevi.com.
So another comment from Janice, a big fan of the show and frequent listener, said, "It's crazy that a lot of people view him as a hero versus a killer. That's just how corrupt our healthcare system is."
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of people. I was listening to Dr. Peter Attia. He is pretty famous in the longevity world recently. And he posited something so interesting. And he said, healthcare companies are broken because there is no incentive of time. So when you're young, you pay into your insurance through your employer. Most people, right, are getting through but there's no incentive of time. So there's no reason for insurance companies to approve that preventative thing you're doing because
Yeah.
you're not going to be with them in 10 years. You're not going to be with that company in 10 years, maybe. And so there's no incentive for them to, and so his proposal was pretty radical. It was to flip Medicare and Medicaid and private insurances and Medicare and Medicaid earlier in life because the government has every interest in keeping you healthy.
Yeah.
Time is on, you're owned by the government, right? And then flip to private in your 65 plus. And I thought that was so interesting. Of course, it would be insane for that to happen. Like it would take so much work for that to happen.
Right.
But the takeaway of insurance companies are not incentivized to keep you healthy really resonated in that context because then it was sort of like, well, yeah, I do get it. Like they are not, the employer is not.
Yeah.
So you have this compounding effect. And, now we're talking about it. I don't think I would ever have paid attention to that conversation prior to this. It is quite provocative. I mean, the shock of the crime, the reasons behind it, the non-personal connection. So he is just sort of doing this on his own as a lone wolf.
And the fact that he's like not gone through some type of like terminal illness or someone in his family hasn't. Now, not to trivialize the spinal fusion surgery, because I know from personal experience that is very intense and very expensive, but it appeared that he had recovered from it and he was living his life much, better than before the surgery. He'd even advocated for people to get the surgery if they were suffering from chronic pain. So, I mean, I was really expecting to find someone who had a spouse or a parent or a sibling or a close friend who had been denied coverage for cancer treatment or, couldn't get a wheelchair covered or something just totally egregious. And that left them, with this vendetta against the healthcare industry. But the idea that it's like a relatively healthy guy is really hard for me to fathom. In my experience as a former producer for 48 Hours on CBS, I have learned that murder is inherently illogical. That, outside of a war zone, there's no logical reason to kill someone, and people will kill for any kind of personal motivation that makes sense to them, but we'll never be able to understand it. It's only in their sick, twisted head. And I think that's where we're at with Luigi Mangione. Maybe some people think that they understand him. Maybe they identify with him as being this quote unquote, sort of Robin Hood. But there's a lot of problems with that, as we know, based on
Yeah.
his own, particular background and the circumstances of the murder. It's not very Robin Hood-esque at all. But, that's kind of the archetype he's been cast as.
Well, it's funny you bring up, his thoughts, his thought pattern and what's going on in his head. I saw yesterday that he had suffered from severe Lyme disease. Now, that's when you get bitten by a specific type of tick, and it can have all kinds of systemic inflammation and effects, and it really debilitates people.
Okay.
And so, X, Twitter, formerly Twitter, whatever we're going to call it now, is saying that, it's a very good chance that because Lyme disease can cause significant inflammation in the brain doesn't have normal functioning. It could lead to depression, anxiety, irritability, rage. And then a bunch.
Delusion, is that one of them?
It's not specifically listed here. So Chris Newby, who has written a book called Bitten,
Mm,
chimed in and was sort of like, yeah, like this doesn't sound good. Like it's absolutely possible. And I wonder if his defense attorney will bring this up. I don't know if he had an official diagnosis. Apparently he did, according to people out there, and
okay.
himself on Reddit. I guess there's a Reddit thread where he had posted that he had some Lyme, he was suffering from Lyme. There's other cases out there where there's a lot of suicide of people who have Lyme. There's like murder suicide from people who are suffering from Lyme. And it's sort of, it's out there. Now, do I
Wow.
know for sure if these things happened? No, not firsthand, but there's a really interesting, there's some very interesting banter and fact citing going on Twitter. Even Lyme disease, or I'm sorry, on X, on lymedisease.org, there's a blog post questioning the role of Lyme disease in the case of Luigi Mangione. I mean, it's pretty interesting that people are now well, there's two things. One is we always, I think, want to understand why, because the nonsensical, we're just very uncomfortable with it. I mean,
Yes.
we're very uncomfortable with it. So to pinpoint a reason, okay, now we can check some things off, right? He wasn't covered by United Healthcare. His family hadn't been covered by United Healthcare. Not a loved one. He doesn't cite a loved one not getting coverage. So, okay, we can check off connection to the actual company. Okay, well, so what's next, right? So
Yeah.
this might be another red herring or another just motive that doesn't pan out to anything, but I do think it's interesting that Lyme can affect you in so many ways, including rage leading to murder. So, but this doesn't seem to me, this seems like pent up calm rage. I mean, remember going back to that video, he's calmly approaching him. I don't know. So jury's out on that one, but I thought it was an interesting topic to bring
It's
up.
definitely an interesting topic, and just the idea that there's another illness that is at play here. I mean, I think we all look at the facts of this case and we say Luigi Mangione is not well, but to know specifically Lyme disease is interesting. It really does give us some insight into potentially what might have been going on, with his brain being actually, diseased to have these thoughts. As we talked about in a previous episode, he's going to have the best defense money can buy. So we'll see where that gets him. Right now, he's being held in isolation and he's fighting extradition. He's, has lots of pending charges in multiple states. Obviously, the most serious charge is second-degree murder. But unless he works a miracle, he's going to spend the rest of his life in a concrete cage. Like that is his fate. So it's a pretty shocking turn of events for a guy who was the valedictorian of his high school, who went on to Ivy League school and, got a master's degree in engineering. You really, you just have to be shaking your head. I mean, I think the mom in me is just heartbroken for the Mangione family, thinking about, their beloved son that just went down this really dark path that has consequences that they cannot save him from in so many ways. And,
That's right.
he obviously deserves to pay for his crimes, and he is right now, starting now. So we'll see where that punishment goes. Changing gears a little bit, I did
Mhm.
want to talk about a couple of things related to the McDonald's arrest.
Okay.
We had another listener comment that came in from Summer, and she brought up the fact that if he'd only used the drive-through, he might still be on the run.
Interesting. Hadn't thought of it.
I know, right? She's an attorney, so I think her mind is always thinking about a least amount of risk, right? That's what attorneys think about. So, but I don't know that he had a car. That's something, he was taking Greyhound buses, taxis, bikes. So I'm not sure that he actually had a car. But yes, the drive-through would have prevented that call. So let's talk about that call. I've seen more detailed reporting, and apparently it was a patron who recognized him and then enlisted the help of an employee to call 911.
I see.
So that's interesting, because if it turns out that this tip leads to the arrest and conviction of Luigi Mangione, then those two people would both be eligible for a $60,000 reward, 50,000 from the FBI, 10,000 from NYPD, and lots of listeners wrote in to say these rewards are never paid. It's a total scam. Don't be a snitch. You'll never get the money. But I found a lot of evidence that people do get paid for these tips. It is a process. It is not carte blanche. It's not a blank check, and it takes time. So it'll take years, because he will have to be indicted. That's a
Mhm.
grand jury. That's a whole process. Then he'll have to go to trial and be convicted. Now, I don't know if it has to go through the appeals process. The conviction
Right.
has
Which
to
I think he's
stand.
entitled to, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that payday is still very possible, but it is not automatic, and it will take years to be paid out. So unfortunately, that McDonald's employee is not going on a vacation anytime soon, but the money, they should meet that burden. They should definitely get it. And to that regard, on Yelp, people are completely roasting the McDonald's in Altoona for being the place that ended Luigi Mangione's life on the run. There's actually an unusual activity alert whenever you pull up the McDonald's on Altoona,
Oh,
and they're not allowing anyone else to leave reviews because they know that it's become a complete joke, right? So
wow.
just to read a couple because it's fun. It says, never eating at this McDonald's again. Went in for a Big Mac and instead watched Officer Snitchy McSnitch, Employee of the Month, call the cops on a hero. The guy was just enjoying his McNuggets after literally uniting Americans. But this cashier hit 911 faster than he's ever made a McFlurry.
Wow.
This this is
That's
this is
a
the internet,
burn.
right? This is what we get.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yep, it says
That's terrible.
ambiance smells of bootlicking and food tastes like boot leather.
Oh, terrible. I know the person is, publicly unidentified, and I hope for
Right.
whoever's sake it is that it's locally that he or she is also locally unidentified. Oh, but actually going back to your point about the rewards, I did also read that typically it's not even ever publicly made, like no one ever knows when people are paid out for their own protection. So we, would be, oh, you never get paid, you never get paid. Well, I think people do, they just don't know about it, or they're told not to say, yeah, I got paid.
That makes sense because it's kind of like the lottery. You don't want people to know that you've suddenly come into all this money and then they're going to
Yeah,
be hitting you up for, all their requests.
exactly, exactly. Look, this guy could have gone on to do more things.
Yeah.
And you know,
Okay,
but
before
how
we
funny.
go, I want to do two things. One, I want to address a conspiracy theory that the pictures of the shooter from the video surveillance and the high def mugshots don't match. And then I want to also read a couple of reviews that we've gotten since this show has
Sure.
come out. So, first of all, there are a lot of people talking about how the pictures of the shooter from Starbucks, from the hostel, that they don't appear to match his mugshot. Whenever you see his eyebrows, he didn't have a unibrow. Now he has a unibrow. And they're saying you can't grow a unibrow in 2 days or whatever it is. But I have to talk about how we all look so different in selfies based on various angles, right? We
Correct.
know
Yeah.
the magic of raising the camera up high to get that really flattering angle and how different we look if the camera's at a different angle. And we're also not talking about high definition video surveillance cameras.
Right. I
So
mean,
the
and
idea,
there's stills cut from a video. I mean, that
yeah.
also is very different. There's like blurring. I mean, yeah, this is not an exact science.
Right. And the mug shot is actually a high definition, up close photo, well lit, meant to identify all your facial features. So
That's right.
that's going to be the most clear picture. Other pictures, you might not be able to see the hair growing in between his eyebrows. That's
Right.
to be expected. And then the lighting, people are saying that he's wearing completely different jackets. Yeah, I agree. He probably is. And we know that he had a jacket found, a Tommy Hilfiger jacket found in the backpack with Monopoly money that was ditched in Central Park. And then he was wearing a different jacket at McDonald's. So I think wardrobe changes were definitely on the menu for the shooter. So I think
Right.
that explains why didn't he have pockets? Then he has pockets. It's not the same guy. It's the same guy. He just had access to more than one jacket. So,
That's
and
right.
then the lighting, I really think makes a big difference. We've all seen we've also seen dresses, right? Where we think, are they blue and gold? Are they,
That's right.
black and white, whatever it might
Right.
be. They look different based on the lighting, based on, the pixels in your screen, based on the brightness. So I think number one, he changed jackets. I also think at times that the lighting, the street lighting versus the lighting inside a Starbucks will make a jacket look different colors. And I don't think there's a grand conspiracy. I definitely believe that all the evidence points to Luigi Mangione being the shooter that we see taking down the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah, totally agree. And I actually, as they were doing the array of his photos from social media, I kept saying to myself, he looks different in every picture.
Yeah.
Even then, I mean, the hair, the angle, the smile. I mean, things change your face, things change your look. I think he's one of those people where he does look different in every picture.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. All right, let's jump to our reviews. So we have a 5-star review from Chris TBU. Insightful, very informative and timely. Hard to imagine how a CEO could be so calmly and coldly killed in the middle of Manhattan. Claire's storytelling and journalism background brings it all together. Well done, ladies. So thank you, Chris. But just to show that we don't only read the good reviews and to keep us humble, I want to read the 1-star review. So this is from Only in My Dreams. Season 4 is the worst. These ladies speculate so much they lose all credibility. Don't waste your time. First a hitman, then a conspiracy, on and on. Look, I take all the feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I'm sorry that you feel that we missed the mark, and I hope you'll keep listening. And at any rate, thanks for the download, and thanks for leaving a review, because I always want to know what people think of the show.
Agree.
All right. Well, any other closing thoughts, Susan?
I just can't wait for the trial to get started. I'm sure he'll be extradited if he's not currently being extradited and
Right.
transported back to New York City. I am very curious to see what his defense will be. I found it, I forget which local rag in New York ran that his lawyer is married to P. Diddy's lawyer. So that's a defense team for you. That they should, I feel like they
Absolutely.
are what a busy couple these days.
Can you imagine the pillow talk in that
I
household?
mean, maybe they're not allowed. Who knows, right? Like, But yeah, I just found that it's certainly a high powered couple there. And so yeah, very curious to see what sort of defense we go with here.
In my experience, narcissists never take plea deals. So I don't think there's any chance that Luigi is taking a plea deal unless he gets on the right meds and he realizes, oh my gosh, my life is on the line here. I
Mhm.
might be able to breathe free air at some point if I take a plea deal because I
Sure.
could see a plea deal for 25, 30 years. And
Sure.
the guy's only 26. Like he could actually get out. There's
Yeah.
time off for good behavior. There's a possibility, but I've never seen a narcissist who took a plea deal, and I've never seen one who didn't take the stand in their own defense.
Well, that will
So,
certainly be fun. But
yeah.
actually, the other thing I'm so curious is how on earth they're going to find a jury if he doesn't take a plea deal.
Oh
How on
yeah, change of
earth?
venue. I think it'll be a change of venue. Even obviously outside of New York, everyone's been talking about this, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it ends up. They might not do a change of venue, just saying the media's been saturated, but in a couple of years, by the time it finally gets there, people will have moved on to the next crime du jour. So maybe
True.
this won't be as top of mind. Personally, I think it's hilarious that I keep getting served ads for Peak Design backpacks now. Like I
Ooh,
cannot I cannot scroll anywhere without them being like, "Looks like you're interested in this backpack. You wanna
wow.
take another look?" So I get a kick out of that. That's just, what
I
can you
mean,
do these
if it
days?
was your average engineer who liked to go hiking and had done the research, maybe. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
They're
I'm not
barking
going with
up the
that
wrong tree.
recommendation.
I'm not in the market for a new
Yeah,
backpack, but
exactly. All right, well, to be continued.
yes, absolutely. So I think we'll take a break for the holidays, right? And then
Mhm.
we'll hit it back in mid-January. I think January 13th sounds like
Sure.
a good time to come back out.
Yeah, and we'll probably have a lot more to talk about by then.
I would think so. Justice Pending is recorded in Dallas, Texas for Rebel Studios. It's hosted by me, Claire Sanama, and Susan Passoni. Our theme music is Bending Truth, licensed at premiumbeat.com. We appreciate all listener feedback. Leave a review wherever you're listening right now, and we might read it on the air.